Happy International Women's Day to all of you ladies out there. This video is going to be approached slightly differently. I'm going to share some of my personal experiences as a woman in both the professional field and also personal life. So I hope this gives you either a bit of inspiration or something that you can relate to give you some comfort. So in the professional world, just looking back at my childhood, I was basically raised to believe that I could become anything that I want to become, as long as I put in hard work. And it wasn't until I became an adult and started entering the professional world that I started to notice the inequalities between how men were treated and how women were treated, especially as a young woman entering the professional world. Because my parents basically taught me that intelligence is 1%. And hard work is 99% when it comes to success. And academically as a child, I was never really gifted. I put in a lot of hard work. I was highly sensitive and therefore had a very creative mind. And I was also very highly intelligent, highly emotionally intelligent. But none of these things were really truly recognized in the educational world, because you're kind of expected to fit this mold that they've created, which I tried so hard to fit into. And it's like Albert Einstein says, if you tell a fish to climb a tree, it will forever think that it's stupid. So I basically felt like that fish trying to climb a tree, trying to fit this mold the whole time that I wasn't meant to fit into. So I worked hard, and eventually I did excel academically, and I came out at the top of my year at university and all of that, so I did really well. And I proved to myself that actually I can achieve a lot if I put hard work into it, and passion as well. I ended up excelling at something that I was passionate about. So then I entered the professional world as an architect. So for those of you who don't know, as well as being a life coach, I'm also an architect. And when I tell people that I'm an architect, I often get the response of, oh, you don't look like an architect. I imagine an architect being a middle-aged man, a middle-aged white man. So there's this stereotype, right, that I don't fit into the stereotype of being being an architect, because people imagine architects as being middle-aged white men. So I clearly didn't fit that picture. And it just comes to show that society has led us to believe that there are stereotypes for women, that there are specific types of careers that should fit our stereotype. And in the end, if I wasn't raised to believe that I could achieve anything that I put hard work into, given the way that society approaches things or leads women to believe, what professional careers they should enter, I probably never would have excelled and become an architect in the way that I am today. And young girls really need role models. Young girls today really need role models, and there aren't that many out there. And that's the only way that, as young women, they can visualize their goals, they can visualize what they're aiming towards, what they want to become. Without that, how are they going to feel inspired? And how are they going to set their goals for the future if it's not something that's visually clear to them? So, as a highly sensitive woman myself, I had to fight hard to make myself heard. And that was one of my biggest challenges in the professional world, as well as the personal world, but very much so in the professional world as well. And so since I entered the professional world, I was basically told I needed to be tougher, I needed to be more aggressive, that I was too soft. I mean, after all, I was in an industry that was full of middle-aged men who had a certain stereotype of the way that you should behave as an architect. And I was far too soft and not aggressive enough to fit that world that they'd created. And I didn't have the big ego that they seemed to want me to have either. So I didn't fit into their world. And I'm still obviously in that industry today, and I very much enjoy it and have passion for it. But why am I there? You might be asking yourself. I basically carved out my place in that world. I created my own place within it. And I say that because I selected a certain direction, first of all, in terms of which direction I want to specialize in. And that was very much to do with being passionate about that certain specialization, but a lot of it, and probably most of it, was to do with the types of people that I would have to deal with. So I'd have to work with people on a more personal basis. So it felt a little bit less cold and less of a need to be egotistic. So I carved out my place in that world, and I also learned how to assert myself, how to voice my opinions, and how to make myself heard. And we can't control the people that are surrounding us, but we can control how we assert ourselves and set our boundaries so that we're not treated in a way that we don't deserve to be treated. So I carved out this place for myself. And that fits me just right in the end, and that's why I chose to remain in this industry and quite enjoy it as well, which is why I work on both life coaching as well as architecture. So I chose to be a sensitive but strong and confident woman who can assert herself and set her boundaries with confidence. I learnt how to carve out my place in this world by becoming a strong and sensitive, confident woman who could be heard. And confidence for me has come from two things. One is creating this, developing, learning, creating a higher knowledge and competence that I developed through hard work. And the other part is experience. So it's a combination of creating a higher level of knowledge and also through the experience. And that's how I developed the confidence. But the architectural world is, as some of you might know if you know a little bit about the industry, but it is filled with young egotistical men who enter the field and talk their way through anything and have nothing to back it up for. And so I realized very early on that I don't have the gift of the gab. I don't have the gift of words as some of these young men seem to have. And so I had to create something even more powerful to find my place and be respected for the work that I create. And that for me was my knowledge, learning, and having something to show for it, and the quality of my work. And that's how I find my place and found respect and a way to be respected in that industry. And this is why I just want to encourage anyone you can really achieve anything, and you can always carve out your own mold wherever it is that you feel passion for. I didn't quit that industry because I feel passion for it. And just because of the nature of the people, of many of the people in that industry, it shouldn't be a reason for me to give up on my passion. I found my place through it, and I don't regret that. I'm glad I did, because if anyone led me towards quitting my passion, I wouldn't feel as fulfilled as I do now. So as well as those types of men in this industry, what I found was, unfortunately, I entered these practices full of narcissistic men who belittled me and made me feel like I wasn't capable or that I wasn't good enough. And I was a highly sensitive, or I am a highly sensitive, reserved girl, and I was quite young at the time as well. So I was an easy target for them. As highly sensitive people, naturally we're easy targets for narcissistic people. So as a young girl who was also sensitive, narcissistic men easily took advantage of it. But in the end, I succeeded because I believed that I could. And I kept learning. I believed in myself enough to believe that if I kept learning, then I could have something to show for what I'm doing. I had the passion for it, regardless of what people were saying to me or how they were treating me. So I kept learning. And this is where my confidence came from as well. It was the self-belief in knowing that I could. And confidence for me, a big part of confidence for me comes from having the self-belief of knowing that you can, regardless of what other people are telling you. So that was my professional life, right? I just want to share a little bit of my experience surrounding that, because especially as highly sensitive women and younger women who are less experienced. They can be very vulnerable and don't really know what to expect in any field. And that leads people, and very much so men, unfortunately, to think that it's okay to take advantage of them, and it's not. And this is why we need to find our voices. We need to figure out how to build our confidence, our self-belief, regardless of what they're saying, and give ourselves the respect that we deserve, and assert ourselves accordingly. So that was a little bit of my working life for you. And with regards to my personal life, I had two main challenges really in regards to this inequality. First, it was finding my power through my sensitivity as a young woman, so that I could stop being a doormat, and so I could stop being seen as weak and fragile, which I very much felt like in my 20s, like people saw me as a weak and fragile young girl. And I didn't want to be seen that way because I didn't want to be a doormat to other people. So finding my power through all of that was quite a challenge for me. And the second big challenge for me was finding my place as an LGBT woman. And we live in a world, in a society, especially back when I was first discovering myself, whatever it was, 15 years ago, gay women seem to be pushed into a corner, and gayness only seems to apply to men, because gay men are more exposed than women. So gay women end up being pushed into a corner like they don't really exist, or so people seem to believe. It's like that thing that's unseen, that's there, but that's not really exposed. And as a young girl, I felt a lot of shame because I had no role models. I didn't know any gay, especially female gay people. I didn't know any gay couples. I didn't know any female gay families, or even male gay families. I didn't know that was something that you could achieve and be happy with. I always wanted a family, and I always imagined having a family, having children, as being a traditional family with a man, a woman, and kids. Because I'd never seen a gay family, it made me believe that it wasn't possible to be happy in a same-sex relationship and have a family, or it wouldn't be possible for the children to be happy. It's almost like you're brainwashed by the ideas that society feeds you, but also you don't have a visual role model to show you that it's possible. So when you don't have that kind of role model and you're being brainwashed by society around you, it makes you feel this sense of deep shame that you shouldn't be this way, and that's not the way that you will be happy in life or achieve the things that you want to in life. So role models is basically what helps us visualize what we want, and for as long as we don't have them, then it becomes hard to visualize our goals. I mean, this is in the professional world and in our personal lives, as I'm describing in terms of my experience here. So we don't know what we're working towards if we don't see it. And the more that each of us understand ourselves, the more self-belief we can develop. And the way to understand ourselves is, yes, one, doing the inner work, but also having people that inspire us. And that's what I mean by role models, people who we can feel inspired by and see them a few steps ahead of us and think, oh, wow, I'd love to get there. That's what I'm working towards. So having a deeper understanding of yourself and self-belief is so important to lead you towards your goals. And the more we are then able to inspire young girls, like the next generations that are to come to do the same, the more likelihood they will have a chance to succeed and to become happy. So in the end, what we don't realize is that when we're going through, we are obviously responsible for our actions and improving ourselves, but what we don't realize is that those actions, those goals that we have for ourselves personally, not only affect us, but affect all those around us and the next generations. And that's what we don't normally realize, is that actually the next generations are going to look to us to be their role models, to be the type of people that they can look up to, so that they can visualize what they want in life. I mean, these are obviously things that we didn't have, or a lot of us unfortunately didn't have, myself included. I didn't have a role model who was a sensitive female architect, or I couldn't find one at least. I mean, they all seemed very tough and a little bit aggressive, and it just didn't feel like I fit that mold. And similarly, I didn't have role models who were, you know, female gay couples who had a family and kids and who all seemed very happy. That was all that I wanted and wished for myself. And I didn't think it was possible because I didn't see it, and that made me feel shame. So we need to show those next generations that there are so many possibilities in this world for them. These are the possibilities that we are creating right now. We are the creators of our lives, but also of inspiring the lives of the next generations. So I really want you, if you're going to take away anything from this video, I want you to take away some sort of inspiration of, you are doing this inner work, this hard work, or growing your career, whatever it might be, to inspire people. The closer you get to your purpose, the closer you get to believing in yourself and achieving the things that you want in every aspect of your life, the more likelihood that someone in the next generations will look up at you and be inspired by you and think to themselves, I want to become like that too. I want to become true to myself, just like she did. And I want to achieve that level of success and happiness in my life in my own way. So I really want each of you to focus on this. And you know what, whether you're men or women, it doesn't matter. You are still going to be a role model for someone in the future. So I just hope this inspires you that little bit more. Okay, guys, well, I wish you all the very best. And I would really love to hear what you think about this video. So drop me a comment and let me know, and drop me a DM if you'd like to have a personal chat and work with me on a life coaching basis. Take care, everyone.